I'm Diana, and my presentation is about how American memorialization affects cultural representation. So a little background about this is that across America there are numerous like glorified statues of like infamous historical figures and events that show like inaccurate and biased like historical information, resulting in offensive and hurtful stereotypes and like mistreatment of most cultures that like make up most of America's population. And while most of these statues have been taken down, out of like just like out of respect, our government plans to return most of these statues just because of like its historical value and its historical preservation. And so my research question is, how do cultural stereotypes affect the elements of memorialization of cultures in America? So my solution to this is simply just like taking down any statue that memorializes stories and people that offend or discriminate cultures in America. And I consider this like the best solution only because like it's been done before like over the years, but since they're bringing them back, it's like bringing back the argument of should these statues be put back up for historical value or just to simply offend people. And so yeah, so many people continue with the argument of like these memorialization as like historical and timely, and that's why that we should keep them up instead of like considering the idea of respect of like inclusivity for various cultures. And so Rebecca Solnit, who's an accomplished writer and historian, said in her article, "Statues and names are not in themselves human rights or equal access or substitute for it, but they are crucial parts of built environment, ones who tell who matters, who decides, and who will be remembered, and they furnish our imaginations." And seeing this as like a social / like cultural perspective of this is that there's numerous ways on how like societal values can influence a societies. For example, like religions, tradition, food, etc. So I used the stimulus article Selena Dad, Selena, Latinos and the Performance of Memory by Deborah Paredes, I think that's how you pronounce her last name. And so this is in her article, the decade witnessed what is commonly referred to as the Latin explosion in culture and commerce. And then seeing this as like a futuristic perspective is memorials across America can hinder meaningful progress in society. And another way of saying this is just like if we want to continue moving forward like peacefully and like just like in a civil manner, then people need to address and confront truths about the historical past and that they should be addressed and respected towards other people. And I use the similar source, Maori Oral Narratives by June Finney, and this is the quote: "The past is reordered and the present reinterpreted. The cycle of traditions about the people, land, and events is dynamic, not static." And just going back on my solution about just simply taking down these statues, there are some limitations to this, is like saying that this is like a long legal process, just by saying like this is like this argument about like these memorializations being like historical or offensive. That can just be like an ongoing argument that can take a while, as long as like the concerns of property rights of just like who really has a say of what should be taken down or what should be kept up, basically. And then again, like I said before, the argument of historical preservation and that they need to be they need to stay up. There's also some implications of this, and it raises a lot of questions on historical preservation, as well as like raising the question, what do monuments really like represent like symbolically to other people, as well as like the role of monuments in public spaces. So again, going back to my solution of simply removing these various offensive or just like controversial memorializations, it will give us like numerous respect for America's diverse population. And as like society grows and continues to change, so do societal and cultural traditions. And in order to respect, out of respect, to move forward in society, we must move forward by simply just addressing the past out of respect for everyone. and these are their offenses.
What is some evidence that you gathered but you did not use, and why did you choose not to use it?
I gathered a lot of evidence about just the role of memorialization, just not like in America specifically, and that's why I didn't use it. It was also, like, another issue about this was like, they weren't really relevant. Like, I really found a lot of articles that were from like the 1980s, and I was like, oh, this is not, it's not what I should use. So I chose like not to use it, even though it had like great like information and like scientific evidence.
And if you had more time, what additional research would you conduct related to this issue?
I would research more about cultural like stereotypes and like how it really affected them. Like, I feel like throughout like researching and stuff, I think I again like research more on like the role of memorialization and like how it can affect people in specific cultures, but not really like the negative effects about them.